AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. On Sunday, it's Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa. Understand the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. This is a 10-week online course. We deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. We teach this on Sundays, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's at an online school. It's not here on Facebook. It's not on YouTube. And we do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch at any time. I do a PowerPoint presentation. We have book references, articles, video clips, etc. So as soon as you register, you can watch the previous classes and you'll be ready for class this Sunday. All right, now I just want to go over quickly some of the things we deal with in the online class. All right, so we deal with ancient African history. We deal with ancient Kemet, Nubia, Ta-Nehisi, things like this. We deal with the 800-year occupation of Europe by the Africans known as the Moors. We deal with information coming from Dr. David Imhotep, who wrote the book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. And we deal with the ancient African presence in the Americas, dating back tens of thousands of years, at least 51,700 years in the land we call the United States of America. This is even before Native Americans come into existence, okay? Even before Native Americans come into existence. As I've said numerous times before, you've heard the interviews I've done with Dr. David Imhotep. This was our land stolen from us, okay? This was our land stolen from us, and it's been stolen numerous times. All right, so some of the things we deal with in the class, we do what was the transatlantic slave trade, what were some of the events that led up to the transatlantic slave trade happening. You have to understand the 800-year occupation of Europe by the Africans known as the Moors to understand what leads to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. And we can't start the history in 1441 with the Portuguese going into Mauritania. We can't start in 1619 with our history in Virginia. Okay, we have to deal with tens of thousands of years of history that leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. This is one of the problems with the 1619 project. It doesn't deal with history going back far enough. This is one of the problems with the 1619 project. Now we deal with what role did Christopher Columbus play. Columbus is very essential to the spread of the transatlantic slave trade. Okay, Columbus and his 4 voyages on behalf of the Spanish crown. And as I've said numerous times before, Columbus never came to the land that we call the United States of America. Okay, when you look at where Columbus went on his 4 voyages, he goes into Central America, he goes into the Caribbean, he goes into Puerto Rico and Honduras. He never comes to the land that we call the United States of America. The closest he comes here is Cuba, which is about 90 miles away. All right. And we deal with Columbus and we deal with King Charles I, Bartholomew de las Casas, Right Reverend Bishop Bartholomew de las Casas. And we deal with this history chronologically. You have to look at this history chronologically to really understand how all of this evolves. So when we look at where Columbus goes on his 4 voyages, August 3rd, 1492, late in the same year that Spain takes back control of the Moors' last stronghold, Granada, January 2nd, 1492. Columbus set sail on his first of 4 voyages on the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. He goes into the Bahamas. He lands there October 12, 1492, which he calls San Salvador, which means Saint Savior. He said it means Saint Savior. He named it after his Savior, Jesus the Christ, but then became a devil to the people and decimated the population. So he goes into San Salvador, Cuba, Hispaniola, of the island of Hispaniola. You know, the western portion of Hispaniola is where Haiti is, Haiti or Haiti. Second voyage, September 1493, goes into the West Indies and Puerto Rico and Jamaica in 1494. Third voyage, May 1498, goes into Trinidad and Venezuelan mainland in South America. Fourth voyage, May 1504, he goes into Panama and Honduras in Central America. Okay, he never comes to the land that we call the United States of America. Now, so we deal with the role Columbus played in also Spain as well, in like the Asiento de Negros, signed by King Charles I in 1518, which gives a license to European nations and European slave traders to supply Spanish colonies with enslaved Africans. We deal with when did Africans first come to the U.S. as slaves? Did Africans sell themselves into slavery? We deal with that complicated history because it's not like it's normally taught. Okay, we deal with that complicated history. We deal with were African people in America before the slave trade? Yes, we were. As I said before, this was our land stolen from us. Yes, the transatlantic slave trade took place, but we were here tens of thousands of years before it happened. We deal with the 800-year occupation of Europe by the Africans known as the Moors, and what the Moors taken to Europe, because these things they taken to Europe, the mathematics, the science, the medicine, these things are going to bring Europe out of the Dark Ages, and it's going to be to our detriment as well. Shocking archaeological discoveries that are causing experts to rethink everything. We deal with numerous archaeological discoveries that are causing the archaeologists, the paleontologists, the scientists to push the timelines back. And they're realizing that all this stuff is much older than what we've been told. Okay, all this stuff is much older than what we've been told. All right, so we also deal with insurance companies, the role insurance companies played in insuring slave ships, as well as Africans on plantations as well. Okay, because insurance policies were taken out on African slaves on the plantations also. Freemasonry, America and the Founding Fathers, the origins of the term Africa, America, and much more. We deal with the problem with slave movies. Why have we been bombarded with slave movies and slave-themed TV shows? Asar, Aset, and Heru, and the origins of the Immaculate Conception story, how all this connects to ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt, and the retelling of these stories throughout thousands of years in various people's cultures. Links to ancient Kemet, Egypt, and early Christianity. Freemasonry in America. We deal with the fake Willie Lynch letter 1712 because Willie Lynch never historically existed. We talk a lot about the film Black Panther and the African influence in the film Black Panther as well, because Black Panther is a deep movie. There are 11 different African cultures in the film Black Panther. So we deal with all that in the class, and we deal with Asar, Aset, and Heru, who the Greeks called Osiris, Isis, and Horus, the first Holy Trinity. We break down the connection between the Annunciation, the Immaculate Conception, the Adoration, and the Virgin Birth, and how that dates back to ancient Kemet thousands of years ago. This is Aset, the first queen of Kemet. She's the wife of Asar, or who the Greeks called Osiris, mother of Heru, or who the Greeks called Horus. He was the first Ka-rest, that in English they call Christ, coming from the Greek Christos, the Kemetic Ka-rest, Ka meaning spirit, rest meaning to rise, meaning the rising of the spirit, the Ka-rest. We deal with the mythology of Asar, Aset, and Heru, and Asar, the father, being cut into 14 pieces by his brother Set, and the resurrection of Osiris or Asar, and the creation of the Tekken as well, which is a African symbol of resurrection. Do we have the Tekken in this present? Okay, this is there's the Tekken right there. Okay, because that's what the Washington Monument is. The Washington Monument is a Tekken. This is the short presentation. This is the short preview presentation. The long presentation is over 100 slides for the actual class. So when we look at the Washington Monument, that's a tech, and we know that many of the founding fathers were Freemasons, and Freemasonry has its roots, its origins in ancient Kemet, the teachings in ancient Kemet, the mystery systems. There are about 1,200 Tekenu all throughout ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt. Today, there are either a dozen or less than a dozen, somewhere between 7 to 12. And this is a symbol of resurrection, coming from the story of Asar, Aset, and Heru. When Asar's body is cut up into 14 pieces, 13 are recovered by his wife Aset, Isis. The 14th was missing the penis, the phallus. So this is a symbol erected to represent the piece missing from Asar, but it's a symbol of resurrection. Now, the word Mason is derived from the Latin words mass and sun. Mason means child of light and expresses the desire to pursue light, which is a metaphor for the sun, which symbolizes knowledge. The term child of light or sons and daughters of light was first used to identify students who had completed 42 years of study in the temples of ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt. Many Masonic temples were modeled after the temples of Kemet, places where light or knowledge was imparted in a series of steps or degrees. So the concept of liberal arts colleges comes from ancient Kemet, and George G.M. James deals with this in Stolen Legacy. He deals with the 7 liberal arts, the arithmetic, the rhetoric, the logic, things like this. In the concept of associating knowledge with light, okay? And if in school, if you have a child that's smart, you say that's a bright child, B-R-I-G-H-T, associated with light. And when the Vandals and the Visigoths crushed the western portion of the Roman Empire in 476 AD, it cast Europe into the Dark Ages, which was a period of ignorance, hundreds of years, a period of ignorance and war and things like this. It's going to be the Africans, it's going to be the Moors going in 711 AD, going into the Iberian Peninsula from Morocco. Is going to be the Moors, unfortunately, who take the teachings from ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt, into Europe. And this is going to bring Europe out of the Dark Ages. They're taking the light from ancient Africa into Europe. And this brings Europe out of the Dark Ages. And then we're going to see Europe coming out of the Dark Ages. And we see the late 1400s, and we see the Europeans expanding and conquering non-European nations, going into Africa, conquering the Caribbean, things like this, and building back up Europe after Europe was devastated by the Black Death, the Bubonic Plague, which hits in 1347 AD, hits in spurts from 1347 AD to 1400. 50 of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence were Freemasons. 13 of the 39 signers of the U.S. Constitution were Freemasons. If you read Egypt on the Potomac by Tony Browder, he breaks this down, page 18 and page 32. Egypt on the Potomac by Tony Browder. I talked to Browder a couple of days ago, so I'm trying to set up another interview with him because he's heading back to Egypt soon. The Black Death, the Bubonic Plague, hits in 1347 to 1400, Common Era. One of the worst plagues in history arrived at Europe's shores in 1347 AD or CE, Common Era. 5 years later, some 25 to 50 million people were dead in Europe because of the Black Death, the Bubonic Plague. Nearly 700 years after the Black Death swept through Europe, it still haunts the world as the worst case scenario for an epidemic called the Great Mortality, as it caused its devastation. This second great pandemic of bubonic plague became known as the Black Death in the late 17th century. Modern genetic analysis suggests that the bubonic plague was caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis, or Y. pestis. Chief among its symptoms are painfully swollen lymph glands that form pus-filled boils called bulbus. Sufferers also face fever, chills, headaches, shortness of breath, hemorrhaging, bloody sputum, vomiting, and delirium. And if it goes untreated, a survival rate of 50%. History.com has a good article dealing with the Black Death. History.com, the official website of the History Channel. So we deal with Mansa Musa, the richest man in history and emperor of the Mali Empire, becomes emperor of the Mali Empire in 1312 AD. We deal with the relationship between Mansa Musa and T'Challa in the movie Black Panther, because in the Marvel comic universe, T'Challa is the richest man in basically the Marvel comic universe. He's the king of Wakanda. Mansa Musa became ruler of the Mali Empire in 1312 AD, taking the throne after his predecessor Abu Bakr II, for whom he had served as deputy, went missing on a voyage he took by sea to find the edge of the Atlantic Ocean. Mansa Musa's rule came at a time when European nations were struggling due to raging civil wars and a lack of resources. During that period, the Mali Empire flourished thanks to ample natural resources like gold and salt. This is an article that came out the month after Black Panther came out, March 19, 2018. This 14th century African emperor remains the richest person in history. Okay, then we deal with like some of the Neteru, the forces of nature, the deities in ancient Kemet, like Bast or Bastet. And we see Bast depicted in the film Black Panther, which is the deity that watches over Wakanda, the Black Panther. Okay, not T'Challa, but the actual Black Panther. Okay, that deity. And we're going to see in ancient Kemet in different cities, there's a different Neter that watches over the city. Okay, a different deity that watches over the city. But Bast or Bastet was an ancient Kemetic goddess worshipped in the form of a lioness and later a cat. She was a goddess of warfare, or a Neter of warfare, in Lower Kemet, and worshipped as early as the Second Dynasty, about 2890 BCE, before the Common Era, or was commonly known as BC. Okay, this is a brief overview of some of the things we deal with in the class. This is a 10-week online course. We deal with thousands of years of history. We go through things chronologically as much as possible and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. So we'll post a link here. We have a bundle pack right now where you can register for both classes for only $70. It's regularly $130 for each class. You get Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, that I do on Sundays, and Sundays 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as well as From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968, that I do on Saturdays 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Once again, we do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch them anytime. Even after the 10-week online course is over with, you still have access to the full class. Go back and watch it as much as you want to. You can watch from around the world. We have the information on the homepage of our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, HistoryNetwork.com. You can buy the class, you can register for the classes individually or in the bundle pack, which is the biggest discount. We have that going on for a couple days, 1 or 2 more days, the bundle pack discount. All right, look, we have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. If you have any questions about the class, you can email me, ahnshow@africanhistorynetwork.com. And also, if you rather pay through Cash App instead of PayPal, let me know as well. Email me. We can work that out for you. Remember, right now it's corrects wrong behavior. It's not over till we win.